Hey everybody, Kimberly here, and I'm thrilled to share with you the highlights of my BGG at sea. I want to talk mostly about the games. I do want to start with the fact that when you do any BGG and you get a badge, you essentially have access to a free gaming space, and on the cruise, it was so nice to have a dedicated space to gaming. Now, the previous cruises I have taken, which this was my very first BGG at sea, but just cruises in general, have been essentially a Kimified version of BGG at sea. My husband and I would spend one bag we would check would be entirely games, like a massive luggage bag, and the other would be our clothes and stuff. And so we would make our cruises board game geek inspired, but now it was nice to have an entire games collection where every person who had their badge, everybody who registered for BGG at sea would get to request 2 games that they wanted to be added to the games library. And so with 180 people in this particular cruise, we had a nice selection of games to pick from. And of course, players would bring their own games, small games, usually card games, to share with everybody. And so to have that space and to have the games just there was fantastic. So I actually got just under 30 games played in our 7-day cruise. And this was our freebie. Every time you do a BGG anywhere, you're going to get some kind of giveaway game. So we got Gloomies. We have yet to open it because we had so many other games to play. But this was our giveaway, and it came with this cute little furry guy. And so you can clip this to a book bag or something, but he's a cute little Gloomy. And then we also got our bag that we could put all of our stuff in. So BGG at Sea 2025 Independence of the Seas. That was our ship. We left out of Southampton, England, and I got to spend a couple days beforehand in England, which was really, really nice. And I totally recommend getting there early to kind of adjust to the time change. For us, 8 hours because we are on the West Coast. It was big. It was really big. And we also did not spend a day in our very first stop in Ålesund, Norway, in the Norwegian cruise. They had to do maintenance on the ship, and so we skipped that and went to Molde, Olden, and then Haugesund. So we got to go to 3 places. I'm going to talk less about Norway, which was beautiful and lovely, and we had a variety of weather days. And I'm going to talk more about the games. Now, there was one highlight in London. We got to go to Stratford Upon Avon. We rode the train all the way from London up there, and we went to Royal Shakespeare Company's production of Hamlet, Hail to the Thief, which is a reimagining of Radiohead's album Hail to the Thief. And so the soundtrack was playing, or live music, essentially, they designed it with all these instrumentalists and singers to be played while Hamlet was being performed. And it was by far the best Hamlet I've ever seen in my life. And so to go to Stratford Upon Avon, to watch Hamlet, to go to the Royal Shakespeare Company as an English instructor and also literature instructor, I was delighted. So this was a real treat, a real joy. And then as a comedy and British comedy lover, when we came back from Stratford Upon Avon, we were able to nab last-minute seats to see the comedy about spies, which is a delightful show that has a lot of our favorite performers from a comedy troupe, Mischief. And so if you've ever seen the Goes Wrong show or the play that goes wrong, that's where this troupe is from. And it was so fun. It was so fun. So we got to see 2 shows, and then we went on the cruise and again played just under 30 games. So I'm going to have that list at the very end. I'll list everything from our days that we played, just so that you have a picture of it. You have the actual, names for everything in the days we played them, and essentially a thumbs up, thumbs down, general review, because I can't talk about all the games here. I do have my phone here so I can look at my list and I can check things. One more thing about Norway, and I'm going to get to the games, is I found a chip company. That's my name. And so I grabbed a bag of chips, and now I've got it sealed in a little Ziploc bag. But I was like, I'm going to get these chips, and I'm going to eat these chips. So Kim's, kind of cool. That's actually one of my nicknames for a couple folks. They call me Kim's. So yes, fantastic. Okay, so enough of that. Let's talk about games. Very first day I played Deep Regrets and Alte. And I will say Deep Regrets was one of my recommended games, the games that I got to pick, and I really focused on, I guess, the word deep and any kind of sea-related game that I was excited about because my second game was Endeavor Deep Sea, one of the nominees for Game of the Year for Kennerspiel. So I started with Deep Regrets, and I read the rules and taught that, played a 3-player version of that game, and I thought it was really thematic, but I had an issue with the ending. Essentially, the player who has the most deep regrets, which is kind of thematic, you want to get regrets because it gives you a different way of playing the game, it gives you a different angle, essentially has to pay or forfeit their highest paying fish at the end, and you only get 3 fish trophies. And so it essentially renders the person who has the most regrets losing. I mean, I don't see how someone who gets the most regrets wins the game or doesn't come in last. And so when you have a feature like that where someone is essentially out of the game because they played it thematically, it just kind of was like, I could kind of leave this. But I'm really glad I played it. I love the artwork, and I really like a lot of the gameplay. There's some press your luck. There's some flipping cards, and kind of just like hoping that you get what you want. So that could be fun. And then I'm going to say that the next day we played Redwood, Chronologic, Regicide, Sides, and Blood on the Clock Tower. It was my very first time playing Blood on the Clock Tower, and I will say it is far superior to any other social deduction game, and I was really excited that they ran 3 different games of Blood on the Clock Tower. I played the first game, and I played the third game. And so it was really great to jump into it, just learning as I go, playing the game. But when I say it's far superior, when you die, you are still in the game. You only do get 1 final vote, and you're not allowed to nominate people in the daytime, but essentially this is that daytime, nighttime werewolf kind of game, but everybody has a special role, and I really liked that everybody felt important, everyone felt unique, and it was really, really dynamic. There's a fantastically dynamic, engaging conversation that happens in the daytime where people actually walk away and have private conversations, and they have suspicions, and they have all kinds of fun things, and so it was really, really fun. In the first game, I played Saint, and my husband was on the evil team, and I knew it almost immediately. I could just tell, and I outed him to my fellow good player team, my townsfolk team, and I accidentally was chosen just randomly by the bad guys to be killed on the first night. And as the Saint role is dangerous to fellow townsfolk if the saint is killed in the daytime. So I was actually fulfilling my purpose to die on the very first night, but I didn't feel like I was out of the game because I could still play and inform on my husband. So it was really, really great. It was super fun. Made great friends with Chappie in that game. And so, you know, hi, shout out to Chappie. Wonderful, wonderful player. And then in the second game I played a couple days later, I ended up being on the bad team, and I was the spy, which had a vast amount of ability to, you know, look at the board, know who everyone was, and to really play a very, very dynamic, bad, like evil team plan. And so it was fun to be both on the good team and then on the second game, be on the bad team, and to really play it up. Nobody knew I was the spy, and so that was really, really delightful. Anyway, great, great thumbs up for Blood on the Clock Tower. I am not going to buy this game. I can't invest in this game. I don't find it valuable for my situation, for my gaming group, and for the finances. But I highly recommend it if that is your kind of gaming style, your group, and that you will play it over and over again with different scenarios and really get to know the characters. So it is a fantastic game, but is not one I'm going to invest in personally. So a couple of those other games that I played on that second day is Regicide. Regicide is a cooperative, challenging game where we played a 4-player game, and it was with Christo and Petar, and I loved it. There was an app that we used to go with it. You play with a regular 52-card deck, and you have goals of killing all the jacks, all the queens, and all the kings, and every suit has a special blocking ability, but you are essentially trying to play cards from your hand to... Excuse me, I'm kind of getting over a cold, actually, from the trip. I mean, traveling really took it out of me. And I thought that it was dynamic. It was very close. It was very challenging. We just barely won, and I almost didn't expect us to. So it is a delightful game. So Regicide, I found Chronologic to be just a little bit more lucky than I wanted it to be, and it's simply a deduction game where players take turns taking an action, getting information for themselves, but also sharing information with the group, and you're essentially trying to figure out who done it, what time, where did they do it, and who did it. So not necessarily going to revisit Chronologic soon. Redwood was a fascinating spatial game of trying to figure out what you can see by using two different devices that walk you somewhere and then allow you to see something. And you're seeing animals, and you're seeing plants, and you're seeing different kinds of things, and you essentially have so many vistas to look at things. And so there were so many turns where my husband and I both went, I'm going to get this, I've got this, I figured it out, and then we did it. And you can't plan ahead of time because it's all about estimating what you can see on a board. And we both messed up. I mean, it was just a riot how wrong we were. So that was fun. Again, not sure if I'm going to revisit that. And then sides, I might revisit. I love word games and I love team cooperative games for my classroom. So I think I might take a second look at sides, but I'm not necessarily going to play it with my gaming group and my husband. And I think playing with more players in sides is better. You are trying to get your players, fellow players, to guess a word by giving them clues, but you can only give clues based on the letters that are available on the outside of a line of letters in the center of the table. So the fewer words you use to give clues with, the better. And then, of course, whoever has the most words guessed at the end is going to win. The next 8, Perspectives, Gnome Hollow, Gnar, and World Exchangers. This is where I started getting into, oh my gosh, I think I really found a game that is going to work for us. We really, really enjoyed Gnar, Knarr. It is a streamlined card game where you are essentially collecting Vikings and then you are sending Vikings out on expeditions. And all you're doing is trying to exchange for the most points. It is a race game, and it is also a set collection game, and I loved it. Lewis and I had a fantastic time playing it. We got done playing that and said, this is the game we're going to get. This is the best game we played so far. It is actually in transit right now. He ordered it the second we got back, and so it is going to be in our house very, very soon. I highly recommend Gnar. For the others, Perspectives, it's a deduction game where you read a lot of cards and you have information that your fellow players don't have, and they have information that you don't have. Not necessarily the most dynamic game, but is okay. And then I would say Gnome Hollow is a fine game. You are building these little mushroom rings, and then you are working on your own player board to essentially grab the most spaces and get the most bonuses. It's a fine game. The next day, we got to Endeavor Deep Sea, and we also played Obsession, Characters, and the cooperative version, which is my second or third time playing that. I've got it on Rado's channel for my review, and I think I also got it on my channel, but I really enjoy the Characters expansion. The cooperative version, playing it again with 3 players, just really solidified that I'd rather play Obsession plain. The Sneed family is too hard. It is nigh to impossible to win against them, and I think that Dan Halligan needs to make some adjustments to work it, because it is just it is impossible, I think, at this point, for you to beat them as a collective team. And so there need to be some adjustments made. If there are, I might return to cooperative, but I will absolutely embrace the distinguished family members and the characters and some of those features that come with the Characters expansion pack. Endeavor Deep Sea was my second pick for the game for the whole convention for the BGG at Sea. And so I was very excited to get into it. The problem was I made one slight error in the game in the beginning, and we realized it towards the end, and it needs a replay, but it is solid. It is very fun. I love the features of you getting certain amounts of characters that you get to activate, and you're moving around in the shared space trying to essentially do conservation by doing some, like you put little discs on turtles, and you're essentially doing conservation efforts. You are doing some research efforts where you're doing some kind of journaling in your books. And you are also diving for bonuses, and there are some really lovely scenarios and setup. It is a nice, solid, medium weight, like hour to 2 hour game that I know is a solid game. Would love to jump back into it. So I'm still looking forward to my next game of Endeavor Deep Sea. The next day we did Salt Fjord, Moon Colony Bloodbath, and Galactic Cruise. The Galactic Cruise took the whole night after dinner from 7 to midnight. We played Galactic Cruise. It is a heavy game. It's a great game. I had a good time playing it. I think one of my favorite features about that game is that you have a location in the center where you have essentially adjacency benefits. And if you don't, you have to pay people who are adjacent or wanting to use spaces that are adjacent to where your worker is. And you have workers that you place out. And so you're doing this worker allocation, but players don't block you. You just simply bump them back to their own player board. And I really like that you have these upgrade cogs, and that's how you get those adjacency bonuses. And then you also have bonuses for like tech upgrades. And you're essentially trying to put together a galactic cruise, get passengers, get a captain, get a ship. You're sending them off and you're doing excursions along the way. It was very thematic for the BGG at sea, minus being in space as opposed to on the ship. But it was really, really lovely. We had a great teacher, and it was someone who had played the game previously and was willing to teach all three of us. So it was a nice, hearty 4-player game. But honestly, the game that kind of stole our hearts, both me and my husband, this is my second favorite game of the con, is Moon Colony Bloodbath. It was surprisingly fun. I had fun. I wanted to play it again right away. It's a card game by Donald X. Vaccarino, a designer of Dominion, and it has this expansion in the game. You start off with just a couple cards in your deck, 4 of which are action cards for players to do actions on their player board, gaining one of 5 things that's going to help them succeed. They are essentially trying to build their moon colony, but it turns into a bloodbath as all of these complications and damage and attacks happen as you slowly add them to the deck. And then once you get through the deck in the center, which everyone has to apply the same thing to, you then shuffle up the cards, turn it over, and start a new round. And you will essentially just keep playing until one player loses all of their population. And when you build buildings into your moon colony, they come with population in the corner, so when you have to spend population, you essentially are destroying the building for the population, and that's how you kind of stay alive. So you build up until there's a point where everything starts getting destroyed, and it becomes a bloodbath. Fantastically titled, really delightful game, and then whoever has the most population when one other player goes out, they win the game. So fun stuff, great perks, great fun things. I just had a blast. I had a real great time with that. Salt Fjord is a fine game. I think it's a solid game. That was the third game we played that day. The great feature of the dice worker allocation, you have these shared dice. Essentially, you take them and place them in a grid of a 1x6, going one way and the other way, and you're activating your buildings, and you're sending your ships out, and you're using a tech tree. It's really delightful, but nothing too special that really wowed me. The next day, we played a bunch of bad card games. We played Sakana Stack and 1am Jailbreak. Both I would not recommend. Then we played Thunder Road Vendetta and Bus. I was a little underwhelmed with Bus. It's a very low-scoring game, very tight game. I do like the collective area of passengers. You need to go to places on particular bus routes, which you're, of course, building. But it was a long game for a little payout. Now, Thunder Road Vendetta. Have heard so many great things about Thunder Road Vendetta, and I wanted to play. We learned it in a 2-player game, and then we taught it and played a 4-player game later that day. And so it was really fun to figure it out, get the feel for it, and then, of course, play with more players. And in this game, there is that kind of player elimination to victory. Just like I mentioned with Moon Colony Bloodbath, once a player is eliminated, they have 3 vehicles in this game. They are gone. The next player to cross the finish line in a map of 3 different boards of terrain and obstacles will win the game. Or it just, everyone else is eliminated and you're the last man standing. You are going to win the game, which is actually how the 4-player game worked in our version. There are some really fun things. We had the best teacher, Stephen Bonacore, and he is a huge supporter and just like a lover of this game. And it was so fun to have some players. And Chappie also sat down and helped us out. It's just a lovely way to learn the game from people who are just very into it and want to teach it. It is a little bit hectic for me. It's a little bit wild for me. It does feel bad when players lose their vehicles or get knocked out, but it's a fast enough, fun enough game that you do want to play again. You want to play with the different scenarios. You want to play with the different maps, with the different characters, because every player is going to get a unique character that has a special ability. And so there are some really, really fun things about it. I'm not going to invest in the game, but I will absolutely play it again. Okay, so moving on, that was my second to last day. And then the last day, we ended up getting in a lot of games. That was our second game of Blood on the Clock Tower, which I already talked about. We played Pirates of Maracaibo, Riverside, Avio, Harvest, Penguin Party, The Gang, Cooperative Poker, and we ended the entire cruise with a game of monikers. One of my favorites. I love Time's Up. I love monikers. I want to play them all. And it was just so fun to end with a bunch of folks that I had met, that I'd gotten to know, that I just had a fun time playing with and played monikers. Just delightful. So that's an A+, but I already own monikers. I already love monikers. The Gang, I played with 6 players. And in previous games of The Gang, I had played with 3. It's so much harder with 6. I think The Gang is still a great game. On my channel, I talked it up. It's great. I think it's fantastic. It is a cooperative poker game where you have information you're giving, but you cannot tell what your hand is. Delightful. I think it's fantastic. Penguin Party, a joy, just silly fun. Harvest, a light card and placement game with little vegetables. Avio, again, nice little card game. And we played Pirates of Maracaibo, and it's like Maracaibo Light. Very enjoyable. I played that as a 2-player, and you essentially have 3 different rounds of sailing your ship from one end to the next, landing on different places and locations to kind of build up your engine, to gather resources, to, get treasure and then bury it, and I found it very delightful. I would probably play Pirates of Maracaibo over Maracaibo. It's faster. It also has that same feel, and I think it's delightful. So really, really good game. Probably my 3rd favorite game of the con. And the last one was Riverside, which was a kind of cruise excursion game again. We had a lot of thematic games on this cruise, which I found delightful. And it was, of course, in the frozen ice area where you're doing polar bears and icebergs and things like that, which, of course, we were going to see glaciers and stuff in Norway, which was really, really fun. So Riverside, a fun roll and write game where players are using the same collective set of dice, but they're using their own player board to gain their bonuses, their benefits, send out people to excursions, and such. So really, really fun. But that's it. I can't believe I got through all of them. But again, I'll have the list at the very end. I'll have that comprehensive list in the details description below, so you can see those games. And then a general thumbs up, thumbs down, and then I will have next to it the games I would buy. Already we have bought 2, which is Blood Colony Moonbath and Gnar, which is the Knarr, kind of Viking themed card game. Okay, so almost out of breath, doing okay. One last thing I want to mention about going to BGG at Sea, which is different from going to Board Game Geek Convention, which I go to in November every year. There are fewer people, and you get to know more of the people in your room, and you get to see them, and you eat dinner with them, and you really just get to know them when you're 7 days with someone, which BGG normally is about a 4-day convention, and it's thousands of people. And so it's really hard to get to know people, especially if you have a friend group. You normally play with your friends. Well, in this case, we got to meet so many people, and it was great. Everyone was lovely. I just cannot talk up enough how surprised I was and delighted I was at the genuine conversations and friendships and connections that I made with some of these people. Our dinner table, we ended up having just 3 others at our table. One family showed up, and it was Alexandra, Danny, and Jason, and hi, you're lovely, we love you. And it was just so wonderful to eat dinner every night and just talk and to just enjoy. We were gaming during other games, but we also got to just hang out with you, and it was just so, so fun. Ludo and Ariane, Bart and Josephine, tons of games with these folks. Jeff ran a fantastic Blood on the Clock Tower, and then Liz ran our second Blood on the Clock Tower. and it was great to have both running that. I already mentioned Chappie and Stephen Buonacore. I also would love to have played a game with Jamie Stegmeyer. We talked beforehand saying, wow, this is both of our first BGG at Seas. We're going to have to play a game. And then, of course, as all conventions go, you don't actually get to play a game with someone. It just never lines up. So still waiting for that game, Jamie. We played several games with Richard and Jan, and in our opinion, the most British people we've ever met. Absolutely lovely. Enjoyed every minute. Thank you for playing games with us. And then we loved our brothers. We had Christo and Petar. And so thank you for playing with us too. So many different games and just hanging out and talking. Very, very delightful. And then Brad and I think it's Sonia. I'm sorry, it's hard to remember everyone's name, but these were the people that we spent the most time with and just really, really enjoyed. And to have so many people that we connected with and that we just gamed with, it was just amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. That's something that you just can't ask for and you can't make happen and you can't just do yourself. And so BGGSC, just delightful experience with wonderful gamers and wonderful people. So that's going to be it for me. If you ever have a chance to do a BGG at Sea anywhere, they've been running it for 10 years now, and I just can't believe how delightful it was. You're just unforgettable, great memories, great experience, and yeah, fantastic. Can't wait for BGG in November. It's coming up soon, and I will look forward to seeing my regular gang there. So that's going to be it for me this time, folks. I will see you later. Bye.